Very good morning, my dear children. Hope you are all safe and sound. My dear children, this is the next chapter, that is tuples. What do you mean by tuple? I already discussed in the data structure, in the data types. There are two types of data types, mutable and immutable. The tuple data type coming under immutable data type. Let us discuss in depth about tuples. As we already studied list is what? Is a sequence of different type of elements stored in a single unit, isn't it? It is very similar with the tuple. Tuple is also a sequence that are used to store a tuple of values at any type. That means we can store integer, float, string in one object. Tuples are immutable. That means what? We cannot change the element which is in a place. If it is the element in the 0th place, consider an element 5 in the 0th place. We cannot change the value. That is the only difference and the major difference between the tuple and list. Python will create a fresh tuple when we make changes to an element of a tuple. My dear children, this is examples for creating and accessing the tuples. As we all know about how to recognize a tuple. Some values which are enclosed in a single parenthesis or single bracket is considered to be tuple. If suppose there is no such brackets given, but the elements are separated with commas, by default that are considered to be tuple only. Tuples are created just like list, except by the parenthesis in place of square bracket. Look at the first example, that is an empty tuple. Then a tuple of integer, then the tuple of integer along with the float values, then the mixed values. And the last tuple is an example for what? A tuple with the string values only. How to create a tuple? T is equal to a bracket. That means what? We are trying to create a empty tuple, an empty tuple. The next one, T is equal to value 1, value 2, value 3. We can also create tuple by the use of tuple function, Tuple. Like any other functions, string str, list list. Tuple also can be created using tuple of function. This is another example, single element tuple, T is equal to 20. So T become a tuple of single element. T equal to 5, that is also considered to be a tuple. Then T is equal to 100, that is also an legal value given for a tuple. All these can be used for creating a tuple with a single element, only one element in a tuple. Then creating a tuple, that is a long tuple, that we can create tuple values by separated with the commas and must be enclosed in parenthesis. As we studied nested list, tuples are also being nested type. Look at the example I had given. T1 equals 10, 20, 30. Then 40, 50, 60 is a single element. Then 100. So how many elements are there? 10, 20, 30. 3 elements. Then 40, 50, 60 will coming under 4th element. Then 100. So that is why we are getting 5 as the length. If we are retrieving T of 1, that is we will get 20. And how to retrieve 50 from the tuple? T of 3 of 1. T1 of 3 of 1. That is from the third index, first element. Within that, we are having again indexes having sub-index. Third index having sub-index like 0, 1, 2. So, if you want to get number 60, how to get? Can you predict it? Yes, T1, 3 of 2. Like that, we can have index as well as sub-index for getting the values in a nested tuples. Creating tuples from existing sequence. That means what? If we are having already a sequence, how that can be converted into a tuple? Using tuple of function. T equal to tuple of Python. Python is a string object I had given here. So what happens? P comma Y comma T comma H comma O comma N. So each character will be converted into elements of a tuple. Then items. Here I am having items as a list. And if I am trying to convert that list into tuple, how I am creating? T2 equal tuple of item. So what happens? That item list will be converted into tuple automatically by the interpreter. Then tuple of input enter the elements. If the user enters many elements, each element will be converted into the tuple element. This eval also we had discussed earlier in the list. Eval is used for what? For converting the elements. That is, enter tuple elements like 10, Ravi, 10.5, my tuple. So what happens here? The eval function automatically converts 10 Ravi 10.5, which will be given in the single parenthesis. So the interpreter automatically converts that into a tuple. So that the user must aware about how to give a tuple value. The user have to know how to give a tuple value. Then only the interpreter will convert into its own, or it will evaluate the data type. And the next topic is accessing tuple elements. That means we are having many similarities with the strings and list tuple. I had only said that is only the difference is all others are, that is string, integer are used indices or index or subscript for accessing the elements. Then what is the difference? Tuple is a mutable type. Just like string, every individual element of a tuple are accessed from their index position, which is from 0 to length -1 in the forward direction, and -1 to the minus of length in backward indexing. For example, fruits is equal to mango, apple, guava, pomegranate, cherry. What is the index of mango in the forward direction? Yes, it is 0. And what is the index of cherry in the forward direction? That is, total length is what? 5. So it will have the last index as 5 minus 1, that is 4. This is very similar with all these indexing are similar with the tuple, list and string. All are having indexing or the element positions either in the backward direction or in the forward direction. If you studied strings in a proper manner, it will be very easy while we are accessing the elements of a tuple or a list. Here we are having the similarities. The tuple elements are accessed just like strings, means character at a second index, tuple of 2. Elements at a second index, tuple of. We can have the slices. Many similarities here. If you want to count the total number of elements in a tuple, we can use len of function. The indexing and slicing is very similar with the tuple and a list. and it is very similar with the string also. Then membership operators, which is used for what? If an element is present in a tuple, in and not in. Then concatenation and replication allows the use of plus and into, that is asterisk, for tuple addition and replication. Then what is the difference from the list or a string? Although tuples are similar to list in many ways, but yet there is one major difference. That is, lists are mutable, whereas tuple is immutable. Look at the list I had given: L1, 10, 20, 30. And T1 is a tuple. How I can recognize it? I had given the elements within single parenthesis: 100, 200 and 300. And I am trying to change the value in the first index of list. That is 20, I am going to change into 200. That can be done. Why? Because list element can change, or a change can take in a place. But look at the next one. T1 of 1 equal to 150. I am changing the value of 200 into 150, trying to change. At that time, we will get an error. Why? Because tuples are immutable in nature. As we already discussed, what is traversing? Traversing means what? Traversing means meeting or accessing each and every element from the first to the last of a sequence. That is called as traversing. As we compared, or as we are comparing how we traverse through list and string by the use of for loop only, isn't it? Similarly, we can have for loop to access each and every element in a tuple. My dear children, there are many similarities with a string, list and a tuple, and only one difference: list are mutable, whereas string and tuple are immutable. Only list are mutable type. I think you are all clear about what is tuple and how the elements are arranged. In depth, we will discuss in the next module. Thank you.